In this video, we're going to learn about direct proportions and how we can set them up to solve for specific values. So let's start with the phrase, y is directly proportional to x. Well, if that's the case, then we can relate y and x with the equation y equals k times x, where k is the proportion constant. Now, when I say proportion constant, I mean that once you know what k is, it will stay that value no matter how x and y change. So let's see if we can use this equation to help us solve a problem. I'm going to tell you that y equals 16 when x equals 4, that y is directly proportional to x, and I want to hopefully find what y is when x equals 5. So let's start with the equation y equals k times x and plug in our known pair. So we're going to plug in y equals 16 and x equals 4. That gives me 16 equals k times 4. Now, to solve for k, I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides, which is going to give me k equals 4. Now that I know my k value, I can substitute it in for my k and my y equals k times x. So really, my equation that relates x and y is y equals 4x. Now that I know that, I can find out what my y is when x equals 5. I'm going to substitute x equals 5 into the equation, and I see that y equals 4 times 5, or 20. Let's try a second problem. In this one, I'm going to tell you that y equals 15 when x equals 10, and y is still directly proportional to x. And I want to know what is y when x equals 6. In this case, I'm going to plug in y equals 15 and x equals 10 to my equation. And once I do that, I can divide by 15 on both sides to solve for k. Now, 10 over 15 is simplifiable if you divide both numbers by 5. That tells me that k equals 2/3. So when I come back to my equation and I replace k with 2/3, I now know that y equals 2/3 times x. That means I can now find out what y is when x equals 6 simply by plugging 6 in to my equation. Y equals 2/3 times 6, or 12/3, which simplifies down to 4. Let's try one more problem. In this one, y equals 21 when x equals 7, and we want to know what is x when y equals 24. Notice in this case, I'm actually solving for x instead of the y. But we still start the same way. We're going to plug in y equals 21 and x equals 7 into our equation because those are a pair that go together. When we do that, we can then divide by 7 on both sides to find that k equals 3. We substitute that back into our equation and we get that y equals 3 times x. Now, remember, we were told that y equals 24. So we're going to substitute that into the equation so that we can solve for x. 24 equals 3x. I divide by 3 on both sides, and I get that x equals 8. So even if you're solving for the other letter, it still works out the same way. And that's how you work with direct proportions.